Another weird part of the movie was he's buried in the Ecuadorian embassy growing a beard, and out of nowhere Lady Gaga appears.
Oh yeah,
What? It was so weird.
Yeah, the singer of Disco Stick came and interviewed Assange.
What song is that? Sing
Wanted
it.
to get around on a disco stick.
Oh my god!
Remember that one, dude?
Dude, that's a great song actually. That's a good hook.
Yeah.
Some fire top line.
Are we the baddies? I drink your milkshake.
Hey, this is Office Baddies coming to you from a balcony in beautiful Koreatown, Los Angeles. My name is Sean.
My name's Nick, and this is another day in the life of Box Office Baddies.
Another day, baby. We made it.
Yeah, how's your day going?
It's pretty good. It's good to have you back.
Yep.
We killed you off last episode, but it's good that we have you back. The
Yep.
fans were missing you. The 10 fans we have.
Yeah, shout out to all the people that were tagging me all over socials. I saw the big wave of support online, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge all those people.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. You're trending. Alrighty, so you want to lead us into the movie that we're talking about this week?
Yeah, so it was my pick this week. I decided to choose Risk by Laura Poitras. It's a really great documentary, and I thought it would be a great choice, one, because we haven't done a documentary yet, and it's also very politically driven, and that's just a thing that I love in movies. So I think a big thing about the movie that's important to understand is it's shot with a handheld camera pretty much the whole time, and it's her kind of guerrilla voiceover style telling the story through the characters revealing information. So you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on the whole time.
Yeah.
But the meat of the movie is surrounding WikiLeaks, which is Julian Assange, his company
Julian
that he
Assange.
started, which is essentially a distributor of information that's mostly classified from different countries, and they anonymize their sources and release it in a way to protect the whistleblower.
Yeah, I think WikiLeaks it's a very interesting thing, right? Because I think Assange is almost kind of like the Snowden bad boy. It's like they obviously have that connection, being like whistleblowers. I think Assange on a more like larger scale, more like, I guess, like broader sense, like where he's the one that's releasing almost like journalism style, like different articles, like one thing at a time, right? Whereas like Snowden was kind of releasing his like big thing, and it was like he did it all in once, and it was kind of like the Snowden show, But,
right, and that was a big reason why there was such a big conflict that took place in the movie, was because it was, like you said, kind of a la Snowden, a massive drop. Someone got into WikiLeaks, it's not clear whether it was someone within WikiLeaks or someone outside of it, and leaked, I think, 700,000 documents that had to do with, war crimes and shady things being done by U.S. military overseas. There's videos of people shooting missiles and kind of laughing about it, and a lot of off-color stuff that isn't on its face legal. But there's some other stuff about mass surveillance, but the idea is that because all this information was released, it puts them in hot water, and Assange's head is kind of on the chopping block the whole movie.
Well, yeah, because it's when people release things like this on like a large level, they usually have to release it in a redacted way, right? Where they'll release these classified documents, but they're kind of doing it through like this gray loophole legally, and usually they redact part of like documents that they release that are maybe put the government at jeopardy like too much, or it's like unimportant.
Like national security stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, what Nick was saying is like thousands and thousands of documents got released all at once, and none of it was redacted. And the big thing was that they got hacked, and someone released the password, and anyone could log on and check it out at any time. So basically it started out as like a shit show in one day.
Yeah, the scene that stands out the most to me in the beginning of the movie was where his number two, I don't recall her name, but we'll just refer to her as number two from here forward. She is on the phone, and I think is calling the White House, and says, hello, this is so-and-so from WikiLeaks. Can I please speak to Hillary Clinton? And it was kind of just like, it starts in the movie, and they're like, whoa, like they're just in this kind of like little studio calling Hillary Clinton.
That'd be like calling like Amazon and just being like, hey, can I talk to Bezos?
Yeah, give me Jeff Bezos. And they had to go through like all these different lines of like attorneys and different people. Obviously, they didn't get to Hillary.
Hillary's a hard gal to reach.
Yeah, I think this is when she was the Secretary of State under Obama.
Yeah.
When this was going on. But a thing that I really liked that showed a lot about Assange in that scene was he gets on the phone with somebody that's high ranking and says, no, you need to understand, you have a problem. We don't have a problem. But like they're the ones that release the information. But it's he's making the argument that they have a problem that this information is being released. But it just kind of shows his ego.
Well, exactly. I think what he's saying by that statement is he doesn't want to let the other side necessarily win in like any sense of the word. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like anytime he's in conversation with someone, you could tell he's a person that wants to be the most powerful person in the room. Mm-hmm. And it's very unsettling, and it's very interesting that someone who takes such a large stance in terms of wanting people to see classified information for the betterment of humanity. He's someone that considers himself very truly as a humanitarian, but in another sense, you kind of get the feeling that he's doing it for like weird personal reasons, which is the big difference between him and Snowden. I think Snowden made it very, very clear that he didn't want
something more likable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he made it seem like it was a lot more just for like patriotism type of reasons, where it seems like something is a little more up with Assange, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, I think throughout the movie, it's an arc of a few different things, but one of the main things is it's Laura's, the filmmaker, it's her view of Assange changing over time, because in the beginning she says, you hear her say in that first voiceover, like, he's brave, like, I can't believe what he allows me to film. Like, it's almost like she's saying that it's like a journalist's dream to work with him, so she admires him for like his bravery to put himself out there. Yeah. But I think, despite that, it starts to change as like, the stakes rise and,
totally
things change in the film. And
jumping back to Laura, it's interesting the way she sets up the doc, right? Because you don't ever see her. Mm-hmm. She's very much trying to be skillful with her her shooting of the actual scenes, being in the room, and she wants you to kind of be like a fly on the wall, as if you're just hanging out like in an embassy with Assange. And it's really interesting too, because it kind of strips away the ego of the filmmaker, and the only times that you ever really see or hear from her is like these kind of a little, almost like asides that she does in a very like gonzo sort of journalistic way. Like it kind of, I know it's not the same type of like subject matter, but it kind of reminded me of like a Hunter S. Thompson thing.
Yeah, it's like first person experience.
Exactly.
As opposed to like kind of third wall.
It's like here's the facts. This is what I know. This is what I'm showing you. But also, like, I'm going to interject and tell you how I feel during the actual thing, Like, again, like she said that she's very brave, he was very brave, which you were going over. Yeah. And then later, like, the tides start to change, and she becomes very unsure of the actual story in general,
Yeah, and she kind of starts to lose sight of what she started, and then she's questioning what even the point was in the beginning. But, we'll get there. Another scene that was really powerful in the beginning was that Jacob Applebaum scene.
Oh, yeah. We loved him at first, huh? I mean, you were just like, this guy's a fucking badass.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he, like, is really a powerful, like, speaker. And he obviously is, like,
he is very
incredibly smart. Like, he's in the rooms with these people. But in this scene, he's on a panel, I think in Cairo, right after the Arab Spring, when they had, gotten rid of their...
Wasn't he speaking to Iranian people?
Yeah, I think it was, like, it was telecoms companies from the Middle East. Yeah. So... from a lot of different countries. And I think when he was speaking to them, he was saying basically, you say that your company helped the revolution because you like gave access to the internet, but they were actually censoring the internet, which is like assisting the regime, right? So he was kind of calling them out in front of their face, like in another country where, he could walk down the street in his hotel room and someone could just come out and nail him. I thought it was really ballsy, and he was really young too. He's in his 20s.
Because with the censorship, they were very much like not against the revolution and what he was describing. Right. And then when the tides like start to turn and you see that like this revolt is actually having some success, then he talks about how these companies that are censoring actually are trying to now profit off the revolution, because it's not really about like the morals of the situation. It's like what's gonna like air better, and like how can we look like the good guys now that the tides have turned, Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that was really sad to me in the movie was the way, like, the mistreatment of Bradley Manning in the beginning.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until watching this movie. I was familiar with it a little bit, but basically when you get in trouble for espionage, which is kind of what they clouded under for whistleblowers that are releasing information, it's like a really old law that they apply now. That doesn't really fit, but I think they do it because they can put them in these courts and these jails that are outside of the public justice system. So they had her like in a bunch of crazy jails, like stripping her naked every night.
Yeah, because Bradley Manning, like after some of the legal troubles, transitioned.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
But yeah, she is Chelsea Manning now.
Mm-hmm.
But it was sad that because the reason that they arrested her was because of, they said that by posting these documents on the internet, she was assisting jihad because jihad got the documents because they were posted online. Like that's like saying, you know, if you post on Facebook like burn down your apartment, and then someone burns down their apartment, and then it's your fault, or so, right? It's just crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, it's just a classic example of like the you know, the overseas military complex kind of, you know, kind of abusing a really young person. They just got in the way of somebody.
Yeah, it's really
trying
sad.
to do the right thing.
Exactly.
What do you think of that?
I think it was really frustrating because I think she did something really heroic, and also it's like if you as a military in a nation don't want these things being leaked, then how about you have a system in place where people aren't like shooting and bombing the fuck out of like not just these terrorist organizations but also like innocent civilians.
Yeah.
And almost be applauding it, because you see the footage that was released by Chelsea Manning, and you see that there's basically this guy who's in like the hot seat who's like gunning down these people, and then you have someone who's, I imagine, his like partner who's like kind of helping him, assisting him with the gunning down. And
it's his boy, yeah.
Yeah, and he's basically saying like, great shot, like, yeah, hell yeah, and like just like belittling these people, and it's very upsetting. So it's like, as a government, maybe like put some different principles in place, and like when you get in trouble and you get exposed, even if it is espionage, like I don't think you have the right to then just be like, oh, like, fuck you, you're putting our nation at risk. It's like, no, like you're putting yourself at risk by being a dick in the first place, you know?
Yeah.
Like this is what happens. People get tired of corruption, you know?
Yeah, it's just really hard to change because like you even have someone like Obama who's like a JFK figure that, you know, everyone really loves. And, you know, what he stood for was incredible. But, you know, sadly, I think you get in there and you're kind of on your first day of office, they sit you down and they tell you like the real truth, right? Of like,
sure.
You know, you can't really change these things because this will happen. And we kind of just get stuck in this repeating system. And
yeah, it's
weird. Frustrating.
Isn't it frustrating too with Obama? Because I think a lot of Americans, especially with Trump coming after, really like have this skewed version of Obama where, I mean, not to say like he was great civilly, domestically. I think that he like it really changed the tide in the way we look at certain things in government. But I think where he really dropped the ball, everyone kind of knows, was in foreign policy, and it's just it's interesting to look back and people kind of forget like the drone strikes and all these things that went down that were kind of at the helm of like Obama's orders. Like he didn't do it directly, but he was well aware it was happening. But like just like you said, the tricky thing is the things that go down behind closed doors. Like you don't know what someone either like has on him at any given moment, or it's like I don't know. It's like how are these things going down? I don't think it's just Obama. I think there's a chain of command that goes up to Obama, and it's like if he tries to change it this way, then he's going to get blowback. And how does how does he change that? So it's something that he probably had to sleep with and will continue to sleep with for the rest of his life. But it's kind of a tricky thing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of tends to happen with presidents. You know, like you think about Bush. You know, we kind of we invaded the Middle East on kind of bad intel, and now he's like he just paints with Ellen. You know what I mean? So it's like everyone thinks he's like cute and funny now, right? It's like we all thought he was like literally stupid.
Yeah, and now he's listening to Faye Webster on Spotify.
Yeah, well, that'd be Obama. No, I'm talking about Bush. But,
gotcha.
But I'm just as an example of like it's the same thing with Obama, But he is, one of the most important presidents that we've ever had, without a doubt. It's not to minimize any of that, It's I think because we're talking about the Middle East, inevitably
it's gonna come up.
We're getting to that, but what the next thing that happened in the film was which kind of really raised the stakes was the assault allegations from Sweden against Assange.
Yeah.
Like, what did you think about that?
Yeah, I think it was like a bummer, right? Because he's like this figurehead for releasing corruption in the world.
Yeah.
And it's
exposing. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's like maybe like an old school mentality. They think that because of propaganda, like he's putting the nation at risk. But I think most young people or younger people really like believe that this was something that was positive in the world, especially with the age of the internet.
Yeah.
And I think that with what was going on with Assange, with the allegations, it kind of minimized the whole thing that he was doing. And like Laura says, the filmmaker at one point, there's a table that's turned where she's like, do I cover his efforts in WikiLeaks to like make a difference? Or how much do I cover these assault allegations against Assange? And it just becomes this thing where she eventually goes, you know what, like, I didn't want to cover it too much because maybe journalistically I was going the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But she said this became the story. It was undeniable at this point as a journalist that she needed to cover these assault allegations because it was affecting WikiLeaks, which puts out the humanitarian efforts. So it's like, how does that work at that point?
At odds with each other. Yeah. I mean, I think that she felt that, like you said, it became the story, and a big reason why I think Assange hates the film and has publicly said,
makes him look bad.
Yeah, of course. Maybe he is bad. I mean, I think that remains to be seen. I think that there haven't been any charges filed, but that doesn't mean there wasn't anything that happened. But it's just I don't know enough about it to speak on that part of it. We just saw the movie. It didn't go too far into it, but. That was like the reason why he left, his house in London, because he was safe. But if he is extradited to Sweden to face, prosecution for those crimes, he would then be extradited to the U.S. under the Espionage Act, and then kind of go through the same thing Bradley Manning went through, but on a way bigger scale, because I think it was just a handful.
It's like A goes to B, and then if B works out, then he goes to C, and he's fucked.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing about the movie I really like was the score. Like, it was really, really minimalist.
That's what I was going to bring up next.
Yeah, it had a lot of tension, and it was, like, out of tune a lot of the time. It was generally just one or two notes and maybe, like, an ambient sound accompanying it. But I thought it worked really well with, like, kind of the slow pace of the movie. Yeah,
because if I'm going to be honest, when we were deciding with Nick's pick whether or not we wanted to do a documentary, it kind of flustered me a little bit in the sense that how much can you talk about the actual filmmaking separate from the story that you're watching. But I think that there were some techniques that were very subtle in the way of documentary that were very pleasing to me, the score being one of them. I believe with the whole style of like the handheld, almost kind of like shaky, in the room, fly on the wall kind of vibe, the score of like the ambient sort of sounds and the like out of tune sort of like notes that are being like played in the score, it really gives you the uneasy feeling that maybe you would have working with Assange in real life on WikiLeaks, like the sort of paranoia and anxiety that you deal with and that he deals with all the time in these rooms, so I think it puts you there in a very emotional level, and the score really helps amplify that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. One thing that was crazy to me was when Assange ran to the Ecuadorian embassy, Laura, the filmmaker, got video of them burning everything, burning evidence.
Yeah, and
wasn't that crazy?
It was tricky to me, right?
Yeah.
Because didn't you think that? Because I think something we were talking about throughout the movie was the idea of like, why the fuck during all this turmoil would he even allow her to be there? All you would have had to have done is to be, I don't want to be filmed, don't put me on camera. And in a lot of those private scenarios, she probably wouldn't have been able to do it, But the green light was always there. And yeah, like, so how do you think, like, watching the movie, what was your experience with why she was allowed to do that? And why do you think? What were the reasons for that?
I think it was because of his ego. You know, like I think he thinks that he probably saw her last film, Citizen 4, about Snowden, and that painted him in a really nice light. And he's like had a lot of like altruistic qualities.
Yeah.
But I think he thought in his head, you know, like I think people that are that successful, they think that everything will work and everything will be successful. So like he said, you know, follow me everywhere, and he kind of trusted her, but she made the movie that didn't really fit his ego. You know?
Well, also on top of that, agreeing for her to do the doc, there's no way that he could have ever imagined that there would be allegations coming against him, regardless as if he is a bad guy and he actually
Right. It was unexpected.
did the things that he was charged of. Yeah, it's very unexpected. And just putting myself in like the shoes of him for a second, it almost kind of seems like if that came out and they're already almost 60% through the doc, or maybe even less, I think maybe there's a sort of feeling of it's going to be public knowledge that a lot of this has been recorded and she got this footage. Maybe if he denies the film even coming out or recording of certain parts of it, does that make him seem more guilty for the crimes, you know?
Yeah.
That's something I was thinking about.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Another weird part of the movie was he's you know buried in the Ecuadorian embassy growing a beard, and out of nowhere Lady Gaga appears.
Oh yeah,
like,
what?
It was so weird.
Yeah, the singer of Disco Stick came and interviewed Assange.
What song is that? Sing
Wanted
it.
to get out on a disco stick.
Oh my god!
Remember that one, dude?
Dude, that's a great song actually. That's a good hook.
Yeah.
Some fire top line. Just music buzzwords all day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't really follow that fully. I think I'm guessing she was just like a fan of him and was trying to like, maybe they knew each other. But that's just kind of a weird thing, right? Like, you ever see a photo of like two celebrities that you would just never expect to be in the same room together?
Oh, I got one.
It'll be like Shaq and Bill Murray. You're like, what are they doing?
I got
together?
a good one. How about Dennis Rodman and Kim Jong?
Yeah, dude, that's
what is with that?
That's
is it
all
just
time.
the sort of similarity of power in some sense, you know, being a famous basketball player on one of the greatest teams ever, and then like knowing a world leader? Maybe there's some sort of like, my friends are in high places kind of thing.
I mean, he's got to be attracted. Dennis has got to be attracted to the power that he has. But I think he's like publicly said that was a mistake, and like he's kind of I think he's kind of come around to, you know, I think that might have just been an episode he was having, and he's like, fuck it, I'm going to North Korea.
I did read something, and this isn't any sort of evidence of why Gaga did that interview, but there was this article that I was reading that essentially says that MIA was in the area around that embassy at the time, and like is like a friend or just someone that works with Lady Gaga occasionally, and she basically texted Gaga and said something like, "Hey, like Assange is in the embassy, like the Ecuadorian embassy, and like you should go like check it out or come somewhere near it. Like we're all interested," because this is like big news at the time, right? And I think maybe she was just like, "Fuck it," you know, like I'm Lady Gaga, maybe I can get in. Like this seems like a wild thing to do, you know?
Like she's like, "Hello, Ecuador!" Like she walks in the embassy with like
the meat suit on,
with like 25 dancers behind her, like in drag.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I didn't at the end of the movie, like everyone just kind of got canceled and the movie was over, you know?
Well, yeah, even the guy who we talked about earlier, who that we had enormous respect for tackling world leaders.
Jacob Applebaum, yeah.
Jacob Applebaum, yeah. He ends up getting accused of things, and it honestly, in a way, was almost worse than Assange's, because it was, I don't know if he got charged for anything, but it was just like the gravity of the accusations, and it was also with someone I think that he worked with, and that I think was a friend of Laura, the filmmaker, I think, right?
Was dating him.
Was dating him at the time.
Right.
And so she had sort of like...
I think she was dating him as well at one point.
Was she?
Laura was, yeah.
Oh, before that, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And yeah, she said that he was abusive. So it's these guys that like have all this power, you know, that are in these high positions, kind of like the movers and shakers of the world, you know, so to speak. Man, like... I feel like a lot of them spin out of control. You know?
Doesn't it like piss you off a little bit? Because it's like you see something with the power of WikiLeaks. It's not like an isolated incident like Snowden's. Not to put his down, that was incredible. But with WikiLeaks, where it's just something where it's like it's almost like a publication or something online, where it's like it's released almost like article style from journalists that agree to be on WikiLeaks, you know, and so it's almost, it was supposed to be in without it's kind of like demise in a certain way, was supposed to sort of have like incremental releases, you know, so it's something that could have like long-term success, and you see that as a person, you know, at least me, I get really excited about that stuff, you know, it's like finally these people in high positions like can get shit on for a minute, you know, and it's it's just a bummer. It's like I don't understand why those people of like a so-called humanitarian perspective would do some shit like that, you know, and like be abusive in another way. It's just like, I think it's like almost like a good point that I've always believed is sometimes even like the worst people in certain circumstances like still have like a goodness in them. Like it's weird, you know, it's like I truly don't believe that like someone is all bad. I mean, obviously there are people in the world that are pretty much all bad.
Well, they didn't start that way though.
Yeah, but it's just like, just because you make some like really stupid mistakes, I think that you can also do something good, and I think that's deeply confusing to me, and especially in this documentary. Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't we just talk about what we thought about the film overall? Like,
let's talk about some more technical.
Wow, there's fireworks going off over here.
New Year's fireworks starting.
K-Town, baby, gotta love it. But there's also a ghetto bird flying over. Hello, sir. All right. But okay, you were skeptical of this movie when I chose it. Like, what's your take now that you've seen it and we've talked through it?
Well, I think that I knew I was going to like the doc, but I think that I was, in terms of podcasting, I was a little bit afraid to tackle that, which I feel like in terms of podcasting, at least so far, my skill set is more talking about technical aspects of like normal movies that are fiction or nonfiction, but in like the actual like film category. And I think I'm like better at that. And regardless of that, I think that the movie has a lot of merit in those technical aspects if you pay attention to it and you view it through the lens of a documentary film, you know? And so that being said, I think that I really enjoyed it. I think with documentary filmmakers, it's the biggest thing I can commend them for is like their bravery and willingness to follow a story. And in the world of documentaries, I think that this one really kind of knocked it out of the park, you know? Like that Laura girl she's amazing.
Laura Poitras, yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, for me, I would say I love the movie overall, but for me, I love that it talks about something that's really relevant. You know, it's something that is something you can talk about like at the dinner table, like, you know, like with your family or something, get into a heated debate with your aunt.
Yeah, talk about like with your boomer uncle about like Assange and like
that's a better buzzword,
doing some like corporate espionage, you know?
Yeah.
And he's just like, it's making the country worse, you know that, right? How do you think Al-Qaeda's getting in?
Yeah. But I would just say if you are interested in this topic, it's absolutely worth a watch, and you got to see it. You know, if you're at all interested with you know, secret government, mass surveillance, all the things that seem fake but are actually real and are really scary.
Yeah. Yeah, so do you have anything else you want to add to the movie as a whole? Anything you feel like you left out that you want to touch on? Or
I mean, I would just say overall, really glad we did the movie, and shout out to Laura Poitras for the incredible ASMR voiceover throughout the film.
Cool.
It was a very, very in your ears.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, that's all I got.
All right, I actually want to lead us out in a different way this time.
All right, here we go.
I want to do a thank you for being baddies thing, but I want to start out saying the first word, you say the second one, and we go till baddies. And we
Is
look
thank
at the
you
camera.
one word or no?
We'll treat it as two.
Okay.
All right, so I'll start with thank.
You.
Ready?
Yeah.
Look at the camera.
Okay.
Thank
you
for
being
baddies.
Are we the baddies?
Bye.
Drink your milkshake.